What's good, NBA family? Welcome to this Thursday edition of the Nuts and Bolts Association podcast, hosted by yours truly, Randall Gimm. Thank you so much for joining us. And we got a stacked lineup for us today. First, I'm going to introduce my man, came all the way around the world and back, Mr. Jeffrey Newholm.
Hey, Randall.
How you feeling today, Jeffrey?
Feeling fantastic.
What's this, 3 weeks in a row, man? You're on a streak.
Well, yeah, it's Jeff Worldwide. Of course I got to help out the podcast.
Absolutely. Glad to have you here, brother. And then we got the first half of the Gamebreakers podcast, Mr. Will Greggs. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, bro? How you guys doing?
Doing fantastic, Wonderful. Man. How's everything been going in your life with, new job? You're making all new content for BR Betting. What's going on with that? Let people know.
Yeah, it's a lot of content, a lot of like live content and stuff like that. Just looking for trends and stuff. So, it's pretty tiring, but it's a pretty dope job. I can't really complain.
Well, just know that you've been killing it, man, and we've been noticing. So keep it up. We want to get there. We need to catch up.
Yeah, look, we all gonna win, guys.
And to bring in, last but absolutely not least, the man I pay most respects to and Will's arch nemesis, Mr. Greg Rector. What's going on, Greg?
Another day, another couple of dollars,
I almost called you the S word, man. That would have been
yeah.
That would have been 20 push-ups right there.
Yeah, but Will would have had to do the push-ups for you, so it's all right.
Fantastic panel with us tonight, man. Let's get right into it. So, as we're speaking, they are setting up to announce the All-Star reserves. So, naturally, let's talk about our All-Star starters. In the Eastern Conference, we got Kevin Durant, Giannis, Embiid, Ice Trae, and DeMar DeRozan. Now, gentlemen, I just want to see your initial reactions to these All-Star starters. And did they miss anybody or did they get it right? Will, what do you think?
No, I think that they're spot on here. I mean, I saw online some people were kind of arguing that Darius Garland should maybe be in there over a Trae Young. But in my opinion, I think that Trae Young is a better player right now. He has a better stats, which I know, you're not really supposed to just judge purely off stats, but stats do matter, and Trae Young's stats are superior. So I think it's pretty spot on. To me, there's no complaint for the Eastern Conference starters, really.
And Greg, do you have any disputes with that?
No, not really. I mean, again, when you get into this all-star stuff with the fans voting and all that sort of stuff, sometimes it gets skewed. But seeing Garland mentioned instead of Young, Trae Young got them into the playoffs last year. This is a reward for what you've done in the past, really. I mean, right. And again, that gets people into trouble eventually later in their careers if they're still being rewarded when there's somebody younger who's better. But Garland is not better than Trae Young at this point. So, no, there's no arguments there.
I would have to agree. And Mr. Jeffrey, how do you feel about the Eastern starters?
I think they got it just right. I saw some speculation that instead of DeMar DeRozan, I think they got perfectly. I saw some speculation instead of Trae Young, it should have been someone like Zach LaVine. But I think Trae is more important to the Hawks than LaVine is for the Bulls. The Bulls, I think, are good enough to have one all-star starter. I think it's about appropriate. So Trae, I think, is good. I'm really glad I was texting Randall off show. I'm really glad that DeMar DeRozan made it because he's been doing fantastically, stepping up his game for the Bulls this year. Became the first player in NBA history to walk off three at the buzzer in back-to-back games and back-to-back days. If that doesn't give you the All-Star game, then by golly, I don't know what will.
That is All-Star level stuff. And, he did it in 2 years, right? New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Man, this guy's a legend. I can't even believe that, he went from killing it in Toronto and then having all of this mental health issues where he's not feeling right to it. And then I don't know if you guys saw his interview with Taylor Rooks, but he actually, while his father was in the hospital for close to 3 years, while in San Antonio, he would fly to LA and back, or from wherever he was, from Toronto to LA, New York to LA. And he would get off flights and play games that night. And, he never really talked about it. So man, my heart goes out to him. Rest in peace to his dad. And You know, it just shows the real type of loyalty that this man gives to any and everybody. And he learned the hard way, you know, that he can't just hand it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So heart goes out to that guy. Let's go over to the West. Got LeBron, Nikola Jokic, Andrew Wiggins, Steph Curry, and Ja Morant. Greg, I don't know how you feel about it, but let me hear it.
Well, of course, the controversial one there is Andrew Wiggins. How did he get in? I have no problem with Andrew Wiggins making it in. He contributes to the Warriors' success. You see how he plays against the opponent's top perimeter players on defense, etc. Oh, let's never reward a guy who can play at both ends of the floor because, yeah, the worst thing ever was Kyle Lowry taking a charge in the All-Star game. I think you got to reward players who do everything. And Wiggins does that for the Warriors. So I got no problem with Wiggins getting in.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't.
Okay.
Go on, Will.
No, I was gonna say, I'm not really too sure like what had happened to Randall, so I'm gonna just interject. Greg, I'm actually gonna have to disagree with you here.
Big surprise!
I think like I do think that the Western Conference that they did get it right, except for Wiggins. I do think that Wiggins deserves to be an All-Star. But for him to be an all-star starter, I think that's where the controversy is. Not that he's an all-star in itself, because he is having a very good season. He's shooting at a very high percentage, and he is a big part of why they are one of the best teams in the NBA. So I agree with you.
The fans speak. The fans speak. And when they speak, we have to live with it.
But, right, don't forget, K-pop star Bam Bam, right, is like this huge Korean pop star, and K-pop is really big on the other side of the earth. So in America, we don't really care about it, but like their following is super crazy. And Bam Bam tweeted out that Andrew Wiggins needs to be an all-star because he's the best two-way player in the NBA. That tweet got like almost 80K likes, almost like 40K retweets. I think that played a big role. I think that if we probably I'm pretty sure that if we could like look at like the analytics, a majority of Andrew Wiggins probably fan votes, about 60% of them probably came from overseas. And
he gets quite a few votes up here where I am because he's from here too. So sure, but again, we're talking about a fan based voting that influences this stuff. You're gonna have these guys that people are gonna disagree with as far as starters, but it's the All-Star game. Guess what? It's meaningless. It's a showcase. Enjoy the entertainment. Enjoy it. That's it.
I wouldn't say it's meaningless.
Yeah, I don't agree. It's meaningless.
There's nothing on the line. There's nothing that this game proves. It's not a game that's played at the same level as a regular or playoff season game, and that applies to all All-Star games. That's why I always say people get too bent out of shape about the All-Stars. Because it's not only
about the game though, Greg. It's about the accolades.
But the accolades for an individual, right?
Yeah.
How important are they at the end of the day? They're not.
They're very important when it comes
when people argue.
Like when it comes to like your legacy.
Player,
like when it comes down to your legacy, like when you're retiring at the end of your career, that stuff matters. People, they look at that stuff.
But it's not the same value as being on an NBA World Championship team. At the end of the day,
but the players care about it because not everybody can be on
and let them care about it. But again, we have the whole problem of the fans being the one to do these things.
And
when
fans
the fans are involved,
in my opinion,
you're going to get things that are skewed.
But in my opinion, the fans shouldn't be involved in voting. The fans have because if you look at it, I remember it was like last year or was it the year before? You had Bobo, and he was like one of like the highest. No, not Bobo. Taco Falls. Yeah, and he was like one of the highest voted players. Like he wasn't the highest, but he was up there. So to me, fans shouldn't be voting. But I think to have Andrew Wiggins as a starter, it's shameful in my opinion.
No, I mean it can be shameful, but it's the world that we have. That's the way they've set it up. So can we really get that upset when
scorer in the Western Conference? And yeah, he's been playing good defense and everything like that. And I'm honestly, like, from looking at it, the perspective of rewarding this type of player, like, I'm cool with that to an extent. But there was years where Wiggins had better numbers than this even. But his team was just horrible.
Exactly.
So I don't understand why now and not then.
Because I think what we have is a situation where we get too much of a hype train going for people in every one of these sports. It doesn't matter what sport happens. ESPN and all these other guys will jump on somebody's bandwagon and they're the next it. But do they actually deserve the accolades when they've only done it for a certain stretch of time or what have you? I think we get too carried away with the hype train, as I like to call it, right? And it happens in all of these sports now. Wiggins has had a decent career, etc. And I think somebody just decided that this year is Andrew's year. And the fans jumped on it. They jumped.
And this whole All-Star thing is to appeal to the fans, so I understand the fans having a good majority of the vote. But we got to, voting in people, like Taco Fall and things like that, just it has to be sensical, but not all fans are sensical if you're going to just keep allowing any and everybody to vote. So,
well, Jeffrey pointed it out a couple of weeks ago. I mean, look at that year that Kobe had played one game and he was voted the All-Star starter. Come on. I mean, that's when you just I mean, I'm a Kobe Bryant guy. I'm a Lakers fan, but should he have gone to the All-Star game? No. I'm sorry. As a starter? No.
Jeffrey, how do you feel about All-Star selections affecting a player's legacy overall?
Hard to get a word into because Greg's so passionate. Legacy, that's a tribute to you, Greg. Legacy, it's a complicated and loaded word. I think I agree with Will and Randall, players do care a lot about it. Look at LeBron. I mean, he's the man who has everything, right? But he still cares so darn much about what people say about him. It's incredible. Like when he was in Cleveland, he would have to watch the playoff games he wasn't in on mute because he was tired of people talking about him. And that's why he got this dark mode in playoffs where he won't go on any social media platform because he just wants to focus on the game. I think Clayton Kershaw said it best in baseball. You could in Sports Illustrated article said everything matters. Now, I would add to that, everything matters something. I would say personal legacy and accolades, I think Greg said very well, it has some meaning. Team success, I think if athletes are honest, team success means the most. If you look at the Bucks, it was a great boost to the player's career to win the championship. Look at PJ Tucker, kind of a role player in the NBA until he played very well for the Bucks in playoffs. The next thing you know, he gets a big deal. Or Bobby Portis, who all of a sudden he's a very much sought after free agent because he played so well for the Bucks. So team matters the most, but individual performances and accolades has some meaning. That's why it does matter. The game itself means nothing. But being named a starter or reserve does have meaning to the player.
So really quickly, Jeffrey, so I kind of want to piggyback to something that you said with that like the team kind of matters more than the player's individual success. I actually don't agree with that. I think that the player's individual success to the player obviously means more than if their team is doing well. Because to be honest, they don't play this game because they really love it. To me, people want to be in the NBA because you get paid millions to do it. The better that you do, the more that you get paid. So yes, it is nice to win a championship and all that. But at the end of the day, they're trying to make as much money because professional sports isn't a long thing. So to me, I think individual success does matter more because you have to look after yourself. Yes, your team does matter. Yes, championships do matter. But I'm just saying, just me personally, to me, it's about what I can do for myself first and then the team after. Because if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, then the team, they get rid of you. They just discard you. So that's kind of how I view it. But I do see your point, though, with the team success over individual success.
Well said, Will. My response to that is the money in the NBA is wild. I can understand when you first start not wanting to get a big contract. Once you have that, the money loses its meaning. Look at Tom Brady. What made him so much more successful than Aaron Rodgers is he was willing to take a pay cut in order to help the rest of the team. Like LeBron, when he signs a 8, 9-figure contracts, that's why he was willing to leave Cleveland probably get more money in Los Angeles anyway with his studio business. But he had enough losing to the Warriors. He wanted to build on his legacy with team success, regardless necessarily of the nickels and dimes of it. So, Will, I understand your perspective. I think that once you're financially secure, team success does have a lot of it. I don't want to overgeneralize. A lot of it depends on each player, but I think generally once you're financially successful, and that's pretty easily done if you're a top 20 player, at that point, team success means the most.
I'll agree. It was very well said.
And I was talking to Greg earlier this morning, and to piggyback on the Tom Brady deal, Tom Brady had a tweet this morning where he was talking about how he had his team success before his individual success, and he played for the name on the front of the jersey as opposed to the name on the back.
That's right.
And
well, he said both, but first, the name on the front.
Right.
That's what he said first. That is what matters, because guess what? The names on the backs are always going to change. Always. With rare exception, the name on the front changes. I mean, you've got Washington doing what they did in the NFL, blah, 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 but it's very rare. The names on the backs are always going to change, right? That's the mentality. He played for the Patriots. He played for the Buccaneers first. He played for himself as well. But it's the balance, Will. When they don't have the balance, the guys that you see that are out there just for their own bag, guess what? They never get close to winning that title. And they're only there for their bag. And you can see it. You can see the guys that do that.
But that's why they play, though.
The legacy in sports is not what an individual did in the year 2022. The legacy in sports is these guys were the world champions in 2022. That's what people remember. They don't remember second place.
Well, no, of course not. But what I will say, though, is that when you have people who kind of focus more so on the team first, that can kind of be to the detriment of yourself, which at the end of the day, these players are not playing in the NBA because they really love basketball like that. Because if the NBA paid you $50,000 per year like a regular job, a lot of these guys would not be in the NBA.
But this isn't a regular job, Will. We all know that. These guys are signing 7-figure deals. They've got their bag. And if they had any brains in their head, they're set up or can set themselves up for life.
Right.
That's fine. That's when you set aside the individual stuff. You got your bag. Now, the true legacy in the world of professional sports is hoisting the Stanley Cup trophy, the Lombardi trophy, the Larry O'Brien trophy. That is what is forever.
And in the transition of that, a team that is trying to pursue that Larry O.B., the Philadelphia 76ers have been on a tear recently, with Joel Embiid having an insane January with only one game below 30 points and called it an off night, but he still had 26 or 29.
Yeah.
The guy has been balling, and people have not been able to stop him. And what I want to know is, so actually, before I mention that, this MVP candidate was asked, "Are you gunning for the MVP?" And he says, "No, it's all about team success first, and then I'll be able to get the MVP. You know, the MVP comes second. It doesn't matter." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that's cool. That's exactly what we've been talking about, and that's the mentality he needs if he wants to piggyback this team all the way to a title." So, as constructed, Jeffrey, is this team ready to compete for a title as constructed?
They got a good shot. They got a good shot. I was just listening earlier today to the Woj podcast, ESPN, and they had a quote from Embiid. He was asked, "Joel, what move?" He basically runs the team, kind of like yes, Milwaukee or LeBron in Cleveland. He's so good. And Joel, what move would you like to make to improve the team? He said, "We are good as we are." And listen, as much as we all know about the NBA, he knows the most, right? He's on the team. And I think this could be the Sixers' year, because there's no one obvious team in the East which is going to sweep over anything. I remember preseason, the experts here in Milwaukee were saying the Bucks and the Nets are way above everybody else. That couldn't be further from the truth. The Bucks and the Nets are number 5 and number 6. Now, I would say the Bucks are probably an unusually good number 5 team, and only 2 games out of first place. So there's
only 3.5 games between first and sixth.
Yes, this East is crazy. The West, they got 3 great teams at the top. East 1 through almost all the way down to 7 and 8. It's very competitive. So I would say the Sixers, if they could move Simmons, good luck with that. If they could do that, that would be amazing. But I wouldn't, if I had to bet on one team, I would not bet it on the Sixers. But I think they have a good as shot as they've ever had under Embiid to make the finals. And if they could move Simmons, or it doesn't look like it's going to happen, if they can make a move, that would be fantastic. But even as they are, they do have a legitimate chance.
Really quickly, Randall, I actually do want to just interject just off topic really quickly. We were talking about the All-Stars earlier. The rest of the Western All-Star reserves just got released right now. So I mean, I don't know like if that's something that you kind of like want to
let's get right. Yeah, let's.
But the biggest thing that didn't make it was DeJounte Murray
pop up too.
Yep. And DeJounte Murray did not make it. I think that's an absolute sham. It is insane. He has to be in there.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't mean to kind of like switch up the topic.
List them out for me.
Real quick, guys. Butler, Levine. They just flashed to another one here.
So Jimmy Butler, Darius Garland, James Harden, Levine, Middleton, Tatum, and Van Vliet.
Yeah.
So, and then for the West, I think Draymond Green made it, but
I'm glad Green made it, bro. Play. Where's Beal?
So Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green, but it's already announced that Draymond will not be playing. So they'll have to replace him.
Right.
And then Donovan Mitchell, CP3, and Karl Towns. So I mean, there we go.
Where's Edwards? Are you kidding me?
Hey, look, maybe Edwards get the call up now that Draymond can't play. But yeah, I just want to make you aware that did just drop.
All right, so we got Mitchell, Booker. Who else?
Mm-hmm. Mitchell, Booker, CP3.
Right.
We got Cat, Gobert, Doncic, and Booker. I think we just said so. Yeah, I mean, pretty solid. I mean, everybody on that bench except for Draymond Green deserves to be starting over Andrew Wiggins.
I know.
Well, that's neither here nor there at this point, right? I mean,
man, it's everywhere.
It really isn't.
Yeah. But to go back to the topic that we were talking about with the 76ers, I think that Daryl Morey's a complete fool. I mean, you're wasting Embiid, a player who's not the most stable guy in terms of being able to stay healthy for long periods of time. I don't think that he's played this many games in a row. Well, he actually did rest the other day, but before that, he didn't play that many games in a row since his rookie season. And he's playing at an all-star level right now. He is the best center in the NBA. He is the best big man in the NBA. He's one of the best players in the NBA, and he has to be one of the front runners for MVP at this point in time, and you're going to waste it because you are looking for something for Ben Simmons that's not there. Ben Simmons is a good player. He has a lot of upside. I get it. Like, he's 6'10", can ball handle, can play amazing defense. I understand that. But right now, with Ben Simmons sitting out, especially with him claiming like this whole mental health stuff, a lot of teams are not going to want to take that risk and give you an all-star for him because they don't know what he's going to be feeling mentally. So now Ben Simmons is not worth much. I think Ben Simmons was worth a lot more before the season started, but now that he's kind of proven that he's not going to play unless he's traded, this puts the 76ers in a hole here, and the 76ers aren't really in a position of power to be demanding an all-star because of how the situation is being played out. So I think that you need to try to get whatever you can for Ben Simmons right now because you're not going to get much for him even in the summer, especially after him missing a whole year. So to me, Daryl Morey, I think he's a good GM, but I think that he's messing this up right now. And I think that they need to try to move this guy on as soon as possible.
Wait a second, though. Mr. Morey's been a GM in this league since 2007.
Okay.
Does he have any hardware? Does he have hardware?
No.
Not a thing. He was the executive of the year in 2018. That's it. So I agree with you, Will, when it comes to Morey. I'm not a big fan of Daryl Morey. I think Daryl Morey is so hung up on his analytics that he sees in front of him that he believes Ben Simmons is worth this much. Ben Simmons in the real world isn't.
He's
Plain
losing.
and simple,
he's
after what
losing
everything
value
that's
by the
happened
day.
with
The more
Simmons,
he
he's
doesn't
not
play.
worth what Morey believes.
I
And
would have to agree.
it's gonna cost the 76ers a shot at the title this year.
Yeah, like when the reports came out that the Brooklyn Nets, because James Harden's unhappy, one, I don't believe those reports really, but when it came out that they, like a Ben Simmons for James Harden, I'm like, on what world is that a fair trade for the Brooklyn Nets? Like, yeah. I mean, now trust me, I would take Ben Simmons on my team, but not not at the sake of James Harden. Like, that's not a fair deal because Ben Simmons has no more value. Like, he's still a good player, but how this situation has played out, the 76ers are going to be in for a rude awakening.
Well, I agree on that, and as far as your guy Harden goes, boy, this morning was there ever a lot of Harden's so disinterested after the game last night.
Nah,
I know, but that's typical. That's typical immediate reaction type stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we see it.
Let me ask you this, Will.
Go ahead, bro.
Do you think Morey is tampering with Harden at all? You think they're in contact?
Of course, they're in contact. I mean, like, they've been together in Houston, so I'm pretty sure that they have a good relationship. I mean, like, he's the one that kind of gave James Harden the opportunity to be what James Harden is now by making that trade with the Thunder to bring him over to Houston. So I'm pretty sure that they're in talk. I think all these guys tamper. I think players tamper and all that. Like, they all like, it's a very small circle of people that they can communicate with about certain things. And to me, like, of course they tamper. Of course. Like, players during the season probably talking to other players. Hey, like, this season, like, your contract runs out. You might as well come here. We team up, whatever. They all do it. Mm-hmm. Like, and it is what it is. I just can't see James Harden leaving the Nets to go to Philly. I really can't. I mean, like, because it's been proven that, well, not been proven because we haven't won a chip yet, but through the regular season, you see that James Harden works here. Even when Kyrie and KD are healthy, they work. Now, why would James Harden now take that risk and take a back seat to Joel Embiid? The only reason to me that I think that James Harden might leave is if he really is frustrated with Kyrie Irving not going to be, like, being a part-time player.
I think he realizes that it won't work in a playoff series because their play style is not sustainable in the playoff series. It's predictable. It's a literal your turn, my turn, and then either, like, Kyrie, he's been phenomenal, right? Mm-hmm. Minus KD, Kyrie can do his thing and play off of screens and find the open man because he draws so much attention. Harden will either turn it over or find the right pass, and he hasn't been that same, like, lethal scorer that he has been in recent years, right?
Now, hold on, Randall. I kind of don't like how you talking about my team like this, bro. I'm not gonna look.
It's if Kevin
Durant does not, like, KD wears about a size probably 26. All right, that was a 3 last year to send the Bucks out of here. Okay?
He was far enough over the line that regardless of the size of the shoe, it still would have been a 2-pointer.
Man, look, that guy wears size 18 with them big feet. Okay. If he has smaller feet, that's a 3. The Bucks need to thank their lucky stars. The Bucks Giannis needs to go on his knees and thank God every single day that the Nets were injured, okay? The Nets are the best team in the Eastern Conference when fully healthy. The only negative about the Nets is Steve Nash. I don't like him. I think he's a bum as a coach. Outside of that, I have no complaints. Problem lies. And, I don't think that we're predictable, especially when it's KD, Kyrie, and Harden, because now you can't double anybody because now somebody else is going to be open. To me, it works. It bounces out perfectly.
That's the thing, though. If one of them goes out, that's an issue. Like, we saw this with the CP3 James Harden thing. Like, if CP3 doesn't get hurt, they have a way better chance to get into the finals. And I feel like
there's 2 issues
that step away from not getting there, and everything has to go perfectly for them to get there. And so
the other issue with the Nets, and we brought it up at the beginning of the year, when it comes playoff time, they can't defend it well enough to win a title. They still can't, as a team, defend well enough. If they get you up front, they got you. But you stay close to them, their team defense is going to hurt them.
They have a bunch of young bigs, too, that, would be easy to defend for one, and then easy to lure away from the basket as well, I would say.
Now, hold on. I would say the Nets. Actually, we'll get into that later on. But I would say that our young talent, I think that we do have some of the best young talent in the league in terms of our draft class last year with the production that we're kind of getting. And look, to me, I'm not gonna lie. I just think that everybody piles up on the Nets because we have the three superstars. But I'm not gonna lie to you, Randall. I think as long as KD is healthy, I think if either Harden or Kyrie, one of them gets hurt, I still think that we can win a chip. I think KD is the instrumental one in it. Last year, James Harden came back, but he was still playing hurt. So he wasn't at 100%. And when you guys said that they need everything to go perfect to win a chip, everybody needs stuff to go perfect to win a chip. You don't just win a chip. You need luck. Like that, that's just what it is. So what you can say is that
those situations where the next man up comes in and they're able to sustain those chances.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. So like the Bucks, they got lucky last year. Injuries.
Like Kyle Lowry wasn't hitting shots. Fred VanVleet steps up, hit shots.
But the Suns, they played some injured teams as well in the playoffs. So like you need these things to happen.
They did get a little lucky. The Nuggets and Jazz in the first round, man, you're taking out a contender in that first round. Like those were two tough teams.
Every year comes down to that, though. Every year.
Yeah, you need luck to win chips.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, doesn't matter the sport. The variables that are needed to win that championship are so vast that people overlook because they figure the names are there. They've got this. Well, no. We've seen where it didn't work in Miami. They didn't win every year that those three were together, right? It didn't work for the Warriors every year. You can't just go based upon having those three players, then, we got the title. There's so many other things involved. And that weakness on the bench, Steve Nash is the weakness.
They might as well have me out there.
That's the biggest reason why I don't trust the Nets to go that far.
Like you have KD, Kyrie, and James that can hit the most difficult shots, but when you have all three of them, literally none of them have to take difficult shots.
Exactly. And then don't forget about our help. Like we have good players that help them out, such as even like the rookie Kessler Edwards from Pepperdine, second round pick, comes out of nowhere.
Could you imagine just like getting called up and then having to go play with the big three?
And he's a quality player. Like he's 6'8". He defends very well. He shoots very good from three. He's like a good 3-and-D player. Then you have Patty Mills, who's our best bench player. He looks really good coming off of the bench as well. Like we have pieces there. Like the team is so much more than just the big three. And I think that
Steve
Nash needs to make it that way. That's how I'm going to leave
it. The thing about it is,
gentlemen.
Now with the younger guys, they're unproven at that next level, the playoff level. These guys are unproven. So that's where the skepticism comes in.
Right.
They gotta prove that they can do it.
And Steve Nash has to have that system to where they can just plug in.
Yep.
Moving on to one of the best or the best team in the Western Conference, arguably in the NBA. Jeffrey, what is your initial reaction to Pheonix on an 11-game tear right before they face the Atlanta Hawks tonight at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time?
Boy, if this were any other decade but the 2020s, I'd be pretty high in them. But I just can't imagine they're going to beat the Warriors because the Warriors are the Warriors, right? We went through this several years ago when Houston seems like a joke now because Houston's so bad. But Houston had the best record in the West by a mile over Golden State. The Warriors come in to Houston, win game one. The home court advantage is already gone. Now, the Suns certainly have a chance, yes, but the Warriors have such a strong track record in playoffs that I would have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Steve Kerr has the best playoff win percentage in NBA history. NBA history. Draymond Green, I know he may not be the most reliable player because he got the back problem, but if they can win even without Steph Curry. Against the Spurs, none of the Warriors' best players played. They basically punted the game, and they still came out on top. Steph Curry was in a shooting slump. He couldn't hit a darn thing to save his life, and they still kept winning. They still beat the Nets. And against Houston, he scored 40 points. I would say the Grizzlies, to me, are just a cute story. The Suns and the Warriors are A1 and 1AA, and in my mind, unless they're proven otherwise, and when they lost to Toronto, they had numerous injuries, unless they're proven otherwise, the Warriors will always be 1A in my book in the Western Conference.
Do you think the Lakers will be able to challenge Pheonix in a first-round series? Is that a sweep?
It's over in 4, and I'm the Lakers fan. Thank you.
Nah, I don't think that they get swept. They don't get swept. If healthy, they don't get swept.
It won't shock me. It will not shock me.
But if healthy, the Lakers lose in 5 or 6. But I don't think they'll get swept though. But I think that Jeff made a really good point. I think that the Suns right now, look, they are the best team in the NBA right now, but I do think that the Warriors are better than them. I think that the Warriors would be able to beat them in a 7-game series. I think, look at as Jeff said, I mean, Curry is on a shooting slump right now. Like, this guy couldn't hit anything this past month, and they're still kind of winning games. They have bench depth. They have the 3-and-D players. Then you have the young kid, Kuminga, who's really good. They're bringing him along very nicely. You have Jordan Poole, who is coming off of the bench, and he's a baller as well. So, to me, the Warriors are just stacked across the deck. And, that's not to say that the Suns can't go out there and possibly beat them, because if any team can do it, it would be the Suns. But to me, the Warriors are the favorites. And I don't really think it's that close, if I'm being honest.
I would have to agree. So you're calling the Warriors the best team in the NBA right now?
Yeah, but not record-wise. I think that the Suns have a better record. So you'd have to say the Suns are the best team because of their record. But I think if it came down to it, I'm taking the Warriors.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm really happy with how poised they've been with the injuries to Ayton, and they have that young kid in there. I think his last name is Jones. The kid with the goggles, but he's been playing some solid minutes. Like, you give CP3 any cognitive big that knows how to catch a ball and defend, CP3 is going to make him look pretty darn good.
This guy was making Bismack Biyombo look like a solid player, and Biyombo's a pretty average player.
He was in Charlotte, and then all of a sudden he was gone for a couple of years. Where'd he go?
No, well, I think he was in Charlotte last year. Then they released him. Then the Suns signed him when Ayton got hurt, and then Bismack comes in and he's getting doubles and all this. And I'm like, damn, if he was playing with CP3 for a majority of his career, we probably talking about Biyombo being a pretty good center.
Right.
Yeah, no, like, the point guard's a fantastic player, man. And to me, he's instrumental to that. Like, they cannot afford to lose him. Can't afford to lose him.
Absolutely not. No, I feel like he'll finish his career there for sure. Anything else we want to add on the Phoenix Suns as they go into Atlanta this evening?
Well, I think that Trae Young is actually coming back for tonight's game. So I think, it might be a little bit more competitive. I don't know how he'll play after the injury. I'm always kind of wary on how players do when they first come back from injuries. So we'll see how he plays. And I actually would not be surprised if they lose tonight. I think because the NBA is just so unpredictable that if they lost, I don't think it'd be a surprise. So I don't think it'll be as easy as everybody thinks that it will be, though, for them.
You want me to check the odds on that?
Well, the odds are pretty low if you're going to bet on Phoenix because they're the heavy favorites. So
if you were to take Atlanta tonight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's like plus
190
something.
Plus 190.
Plus 190. Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, like, it can definitely happen. And the Suns did not play last night, actually. I was going to say they're on a back-to-back, but they didn't. They played the other night. But, yeah, I could see them losing tonight. But I don't really think it's going to be – I don't really think it'd be, like, that big of a deal if they do lose. I mean, like, an 11-game win streak is fantastic.
Teams like Phoenix and the Warriors make it so hard for people to defend. Like, the way you can't get off of CP3 or Devin Booker screen, like, you can't let either one of them – like, you can't let CP3 get to the mid-range. He's going to hit that fadeaway mid-range. And then Devin Booker, he could shoot from anywhere on the floor, right? And then that just leaves your roller wide open. So it's just easy money for them. And I'm happy to see that they're doing so well because I really like Monty Williams a lot. He's just a great leader and a great head coach, and he's finally getting some recognition. Probably candidate for Coach of the Year.
Well, he's had an 18-game win streak earlier, and now an 11. So the consistency is there, right? But again, come playoff time, that's a whole different animal. All
right, we're moving on to our last topic of the evening. We got Cade Cunningham back on top as the number 1 Kia NBA rookie. This is his first time back on the top since returning from injury. Greg, I'm going to kick it to you first. Is he staying that spot, or does Evan Mobley come up and steal it from him, or even your man, Scotty Barnes?
I still have Mobley. I think Mobley's just contributed so much to the Cavaliers, even despite their injuries. Mobley is contributing to a winning organization. I think that counts for something. Cunningham has numbers, but the Pistons aren't going anywhere. And again, this is the hype machine happening again at this moment. But the 2 rookies who have made the best impact for their teams have been Mobley and Scotty Barnes. So, I mean, sure, he looks nice. He's getting numbers.
Will, what do you think?
Well, I don't agree with the Scotty Barnes take. I think Scotty Barnes is a good. I think he's in the conversation, of course. I think there's about like
rising star,
four of the rookies that are in the conversation. But I do think that it is between Cade and it is between Evan Mobley. Now, Greg said that the Pistons aren't going anywhere. Neither are the Cavs. They look good right now. I understand the same thing like what I said with Washington Wizards. They looked very good to start off the season. Everybody's like, oh, my God, the Wizards. The Wizards, they still suck. The Cavs are just on some really good form right now, and it's going to fizzle down. They're going to finish about the highest that the Cavs finish is 7th. And I just don't think that, that they're going anywhere. So I think you have 2 rookies. The 2 favorites to win it are Cade and Evan Mobley, but they're both not going anywhere. But I think that Cade, him being a point guard is basically like the quarterback of basketball. I think that kind of puts him in the front seat, because I think that with him handling the ball more, I think that that's going to be able to impact his stats. And I think stats is what it's going to come down to, especially with Jared Allen being in Cleveland. That kind of takes some away from what Evan Mobley could possibly do if he was the number 1 big man there. So, yeah, I'm going to have to say that.
And I agree with that take, and it's been proven to be true since he's returned. And but people like Greg have mentioned in the past that he's going to be easier to guard because he's the only one on that team. Well, he's got players like Sadiq Bey and other players like that around him. Jeffrey, how do you feel about Cade Cunningham this season? Do you think he will secure the Rookie of the Year?
Well, there's something in psychology called an essence, that sometimes the way we feel about an object or a person is much more is about the way we perceive it, not necessarily what's really there. And with the NBA, this is just the name, the Kia ladder. It just really makes you think of grandeur. Like, in fact, I went and read the article on NBA.com, and they had this humorous comment that, oh no, Cunningham fell off the ladder because he got hurt as soon as he was on top of the ladder. Not too seriously hurt, thankfully. Now, I don't think we can dismiss Cunningham instantly because they have a bad team, because there was another player whose team had a losing first year in the league, and even team with it still worked out. However, I think I disagree with Will. I think it's wrong to equivocate the Pistons and the Cavs. I think the Cavs are a real contender. They're not ready to go to the finals yet. They need to get a higher degree of health. But the Cavs at this point, they proved it the other night by beating the Bucks handily with the barrage of 3-pointers. They've returned to being a competent organization. Elite championship contender? No. But a competent organization. You simply cannot say the same for the Detroit Pistons. So that's why I think Cunningham has a chance, even though the Pistons are bad. I agree. But personally, I would go with Mobley because he has had a bigger impact on a much more successful franchise, and to me, that counts for a lot.
Jeff, I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree. The only thing that the Cavs are contenders for is a first round sweep by whoever they play. Like they're
he's still contributing. He's still contributing to this team being much better than they were last year.
Well, that's what happens when you have better players than the year that you had before. You tend to be a better team. There you
go, though. Come on, you got to give the kid. You got to give this kid credit.
No, of course. No, I'm not taking away credit from him. I'm saying the Cavs aren't going to do anything this year in general. I'm not talking about Evan Mobley. I think he's a very good player. But I'm talking about the team itself. The Cavs are not doing anything. They're not contenders for anything right now. They will, if they make the playoffs, as I said, they'll be no higher than 7th seed. And they'll probably get swept. And then we'll talk about how they're a young, promising team. But the Cavs aren't a contender for anything, in my opinion.
That's not what we're talking about, though. We're not talking about them being a contender. We're talking about the contributions made by these rookies to their organizations.
But that's what Jeff brought up. So I was answering to what Jeff said.
But for the rookie of the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, you can be a Jalen or a Cade on these teams that are doing nothing, where you get to put up numbers because you're the weapon.
Okay.
Or you could be an Evan Mobley and a Scotty Barnes who are contributing as scorers. They're contributing as rebounders. They're contributing assists, their defense, etc. They are the two that I think are above the rest right now.
But they're on.
I have Mobley as the number 1 rookie right now.
So you fault players for being on better teams. It's not Cade's fault that he's in.
No, I'm
Detroit.
No, the rookie of the year is. I'm talking about the guys who are making an impact on their team's success.
Okay.
Success. It's not just about the numbers that you put up individually. Are you raising the level of your teammates? Are you doing things that contribute to winning?
So how is Scotty Barnes there?
Scotty Barnes.
Have
you seen what Scotty Barnes has done to people, including, I may add, a certain gentleman on the New Jersey Nets who said, how old is he? 20, and he was told 19, and he says, sheesh.
And what did KD have that game? All right, so as I'm saying, the Raptors are 8th. So you're bringing up, it's how you're talking is like the Raptors are doing really well. Like the Raptors are having.
They're 3 games above 500. Your team's only 5 games above 500. So don't go there.
No, but you're talking about team success, and you're talking about teams that are doing something. The Raptors aren't doing anything.
Barnes is being recognized by team after team after team that he plays against.
And so is Cade. But I'm alluding to your point saying that Evan Mobley and Scotty Barnes are doing something to contribute to helping their team win. The Raptors are in 8th place. You're not really doing that much.
They're above 500, which nobody expected them to be.
But the Raptors,
no one expected them to be there.
But look at the Raptors roster compared to the Pistons roster. You take Scotty Barnes off of that Raptors team, they're still a better team than what that Pistons team have. So of course, Scotty Barnes is gonna, be in a better situation because he's drafted to the better team. The Pistons have nobody, and if anything, that makes it harder for Cade Cunningham because teams know he's their number 1 option, so they're gonna key in on him more. Nobody's really keying in on Scotty Barnes like that because you have Fred VanVleet, you have Pascal Siakam, and now you have Gary Trent who's going off. They're not worried about Scotty Barnes. They're really not. So to say that he's looked better and he's contributing more, it's easy to do that when you have better players around you. It's much harder to do it in the situation that Cade Cunningham is doing it in. All that he has is Sadiq Bey, really. But
he's also defying the expectations that all the experts had for him, that he can't hit threes. Well, he's hitting threes. He's doing those things. He's doing those things that people said he wasn't able to do.
Scotty Barnes doesn't really hit threes. Barnes
he has been. You don't see them play every night, Will.
I gamble. I gamble. I check his stats.
You're checking his stats. How many times is he hitting threes?
Look, to me, Scotty Barnes is a very good player, but to me, to say that he's a big reason or to say that the team that he plays on is good. That's why. If you put Scotty Barnes on the Pistons,
all of a sudden they're good. That's not what you said in the preseason. You totally dismissed it when I said that they were going to defy expectations. You completely dismissed it. Yeah, here they are, 3 games above 500 at this point of the year.
So are you happy to be an 8th seed? Where are the expectations?
It doesn't matter. You had them out of the playoff picture. Not even in the hunt.
Yeah, you guys weren't in the hunt. You're in the hunt for 10th place. You guys are probably not going to make the playoffs. And Scotty Barnes is not going to win Rookie of the Year. He's in the conversation.
And how many games in a row has your vaunted Nets lost? How many games now have they lost?
I mean, we're hurt. It happens.
But the Raptors had injuries too. Pascal Siakam didn't start the season. VanVleet has missed games. Scotty has missed games. Everybody's missed games, and they've all had COVID too.
Yeah,
don't hand me that nonsense.
I'm not making excuses. It seems like you're making excuses. I don't make excuses.
I'm not making any excuses. I'm just simply saying that
Gentlemen.
the players that made the contributions, like Mobley and Barnes, I value more than the guy that you know is going to get it because he's the only option to get points.
But if you know that he's going to get it, then doesn't that make it harder for him to actually get it when he's the only thing that teams have to game plan for?
Also, guys, the first pick and the second pick and the third pick are all going to the worst teams. So there's no high expectations going into those that next year.
But there's Mobley, who was the third pick, going therefore to the third worst team. And where are the Cavaliers sitting right now? In a position to be a playoff team.
Wait, but this isn't the NFL. You really don't get the pick order by your record. You get it by the lottery. Yes, you do have higher odds.
They still got it by the lottery.
Well, no, yeah, of course, but
the Pistons were like
higher odds. If you suck, then you get a higher pick more than likely. But it's like with the Celtics when they had the high picks from the Nets. It's not generally that always the worst team gets the highest picks in the NBA.
Traditionally, it is, but I mean,
the odds favor it. The odds
obviously
still favor it.
There's situations where like the Warriors get a number one pick, and well, they were pretty bad that year, but they got it from us and other teams that have had rookies that do fantastic the next year. People like Andrew Wiggins, and then where is he at 9 years later? Finally an all-star, but in between that first year being that rookie of the year, and now he wasn't proving to be that number one pick caliber.
And it's still, and he never was. Which had we been doing this 9 years ago, I would have said that is a horrible decision by the T-Wolves to make this guy the number one overall pick, because he's not going to be that player that can live up to the being taken number one.
But what you see and what you understand with Wiggins' physical ability, like he's just a naturally gifted player. And, if he's doing things like that at such a young age, of course, the ceiling goes through the roof. And that's what you're betting all your money on, is the ceiling. But people didn't put enough into his, for lack of better words, mental capacity, right, to be able to lead a franchise. But to end the night, let me kick it back to Jeffrey.
Yes, sir.
With this team right here, this big three, would they have done some real damage, or do you think they wouldn't have been able to get it together?
Which were those three, Randall?
We got Cat, Wiggins, and Levine. If they had stayed together,
oh my God!
If the Timberwolves weren't a horrible franchise and put our future in the hands of Jimmy Butler and Tom Thibodeau, would those three guys have been able to do some damage in the NBA?
Well, Randall, it all looks good right now, but some organizations are just so bad. The players that are succeeding now, they wouldn't necessarily have succeeded had they remained on that team. I'll give you an example of Brett Favre. People say, the Falcons are terrible. How could you trade Brett Favre? Because Brett Favre was not going to succeed with the Atlanta Knights team, right? He wouldn't have been Brett Favre. He would have been in Atlanta. So same with the Timberwolves. They're not going to a franchise that's won two playoff series. They went to the Western Conference Finals and lost to the Lakers in 2001. This is as far as they've ever gotten. Thibodeau destroyed the team. He destroyed the Bulls. He may soon destroy the Knicks. Those players would not be the players they are if they had been for the Timberwolves. I'm sorry, Randall. I don't want to just pour it on you because I like you, man. I'm just speaking the truth. Don't shoot the messenger.
So, Will, is Jeffrey telling me that Wiggs, Cat, and Levine are not the equivalent of KD, Russ, and Harden?
No, absolutely not. They're not. And what Jeff said was 1,000% spot on. Look, Randall, I know that you're a Wolves fan, and like Jeff said, I like you as well. So, like memory lane is very nice to look down when you look at like what some of these players are doing now. But if I'm going to be honest with you, to make it better, I do think that the Wolves, I actually like the Wolves' current big three. Well, not big three, but like their 3 stars. I actually like this group of stars more than those 3, if I'm being honest, with D'Lo. Because I think Anthony Edwards, I think that he has the highest ceiling of all those players, like of all these players that we're talking about. And I think that he could be a real superstar here. So if you guys can to me, the Wolves should be all competing for around 8th, 7th. Like, there's no reason why, like, the Wolves should not be fighting for a playoff spot. Not that you guys will really do anything in the playoffs, per se, as in making it far and stuff, but the Wolves, this is where they need to be at. Anthony Edwards has proven that he is a high-caliber player. You traded for D'Lo. You have an all-star in Cat. There's no reason to me, like, why you guys can't be in the mix for a playoff spot.
I've been telling people, man, 6th seed, play, not a play-in team, a play-off team. Greg, how can you wrap up that segment for us?
Well, you put those 3 players up on the screen. How would those 3 players have done had they had Popovich or a Kerr?
Oh my God!
How would they have done?
You could say that for so many teams.
Exactly, and that's why I always keep saying there's so many things that people just skip over as to what it takes to win. And had those 3 players had a different coach, wow,
right?
We could have been saying, wow.
I'm glad you mentioned Popovich, because he's like 10 wins away from being the winningest most head coach in NBA history. Just a quick round off answer. Do you guys think that he coaches another season after this, or after he gets this record, he's like, I'm out?
Nah, Pop needs to retire. It's time. Like, it's time. Like, the Spurs aren't going to win anything. Yeah, so I think without having the chance to win another title, I don't really see the need in him coming back. I think you get this record, you see out the rest of this year, and, you just go on. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's older. So, enjoy life. Like, you don't got to be stressed out worrying about, finishing 8th seed and getting bounced out the playoffs. Just go and retire and, live out the rest of your days. That's what I think.
I feel that way too. What about you, gentlemen?
Will, I think you make a great point. The Spurs, boy, I feel bad criticizing Popovich, but I have to anyway. The Spurs have really been spinning their wheels the last several years. They're losing to the Warriors when the Warriors didn't have any of their players available. That made me feel pretty bad because, how can that happen to them? Popovich can stay for as long as he would like, but I don't know how much longer he would like to see on. The record got nothing to do with it. He is not a guy who chases records. He's not going to, I got the record, I'll retire. No. He's not going to retire just because he got the record. And he's not going to be forced out. He's done that much good. But he can leave anytime he likes, and I think now would be a good time to leave. I read ESPN had a good article. He's a big wine connoisseur. He loves to have big wine parties, leave very big tips. My advice to him, hey, Pop, great career. Why don't you go sit back, relax, take a big bottle of that 5-figure wine, that 6-figure tip, very good man. Pour yourself a glass for a job well done, and the NBA can move on with a smile. I think that's a great thing to do.
I think so too.
Well, Popovich is this century's Renaissance man, like Phil Jackson was back in his day, outside of the game, right? Just their varied interests and all that sort of stuff. Personally, much like the other guy in the NFL that retired this week, I think he should have retired last year as well, because I think the thing that got blown, thanks to some guy in Las Vegas with a lot of money, was seeing the first woman become an NBA head coach in Becky Hammon.
Wow.
I really think that's sad that she didn't get the
I thought she was going to get the Magic job for sure.
Well, not just the Magic. I thought she was going to inherit the Spurs.
Mm-hmm. She
I
still
really
did. I mean,
wait. I kind of do want to bring up a point about how, really quickly, that I understand that Greg is a legend, but both the Gregs, but I do think that Popovich, if he doesn't want to leave, I do think that he should be forced out. I don't think that they should fire him, because I think that he's done too much for that franchise.
Mutually agreed to part ways.
One of those. I think it has to be like one of those, because it comes to a point where you're like, you're a legend and you've done so much, but now you're overstaying your welcome, and it's time for a rebuild. I don't think that you rebuild with a Greg Popovich. I think it's time to reset the franchise for the future now. And I don't think that Greg Popovich as a coach is a part of that future. Maybe he wants to go in like the front office. I don't know what he wants to do. But I do think it comes a time where it doesn't matter how great you are, everybody always overstays their welcome. And I think that, the Spurs have to, like, this is sports. This is the aim of sports, is to do the best, is to do what's best for your team. to get the results that you need to get. But people are too sentimental, and we need to stop being sentimental. And I think that if Greg does not want to leave, he has to be forced out, because that's what's going to be probably beneficial for the Spurs moving forward.
And we'll have to
but
see
if you want to take that, Will, the sentimental factor, why is it wrong for me to say the name on the front of the jersey is always going to be more important than the one on the back?
I thought about that too.
Right? You can't have it both ways. You can't
What? Say it again.
You can't go from one side of the argument for the player and then take the other side when comes to Popovich as a coach.
Well, yes, you can, because things aren't black and white. So how I view stuff is players need to be selfish. And I think if Pop wants to be selfish, then he should be, and he should come back if he wants to be. But I also understand that I think players and individuals should be selfish, because teams and organizations are going to be selfish. They'll trade you right away. They'll cut you. They'll do all this stuff without regard for you. So you should be selfish as well. So I'm just saying that teams are selfish, so players should also be selfish as well. So yeah, I get both points of the coin, but yes, like that's all like that I'm saying is that players should be selfish, because if not, teams, they get rid of you, they trade you, and if you're not performing, they get rid of you. So you have to be in it for yourself. It's the same on both sides. They're both kind of the same.
Absolutely. And then we saw you with Scottie Pippen when he decided to worry about his family and get the first contract that he saw. Even his GM at the time told him not to sign this. You can make more money later, but was too afraid to get hurt, and he needed money for his family right then and there. So
yep.
What Will is saying, always bet on yourself, always tune in with us, and thank you for joining us for another week of the NBS Association podcast. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on, and we will be seeing you in future weeks.